Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank Chairwoman Waters. I agree with Ms. Bailey that she has been a champion for housing, and I think that she's been the lion of Los Angeles trying to get more affordable housing, and I appreciate her very much. Mr. Chair, I also appreciate you. You quoted the Bible, and I'm sure you knew what you were doing, but you modernized it and called it the people in the street of life. But you were really quoting Matthew 25, which is the last judgment. And I want to read a little bit because since I'm Catholic, I don't memorize, although I do memorize this passage. I have to read it. But it says this: "For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Naked and you clothed me. I was ill and you comforted me. In prison and you came to visit me." And of course, they asked him, well, when did we do that? When you did it for the least of my brothers. Now, I have to say, I think that both sides share that. I have many friends on the Republican side, and great respect for the gentleman that was sitting next to you. I think he's still there. I can't see him on the film, but Mr. French Hill, good friend of mine, I know he wants to do that. And trying to get there, I think, is a hard part, and because we disagree on strategy. But hopefully, we can come together a little bit more to get things done. I do want to ask about inflation because this has been brought up a number of times. And so, Mr. Holtz-Eakin, you addressed inflation. What is the inflation rate in the EU?
I don't know the exact rate right now, but they have very high inflation, especially since the onset of the...
Is it higher than ours? Is it higher than ours? Is it higher than the United States?
In some places, yes.
Okay. How about in the UK?
Yes.
Have they implemented President Biden's policies?
No, but I think if you look at the period when the policies I mentioned were most important, it's 2021, when we saw inflation get to nearly 7% on the consumer price index year over year. European inflation was nothing like that. All of that preceded the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So the period where the policy impacts, the excessive monetary stimulus, the excessive fiscal stimulus was 2021.
You don't think so? You don't think this is related to the pandemic then?
I think that European inflation went up about a percentage point a quarter in 2021, went from 0 to 4%. That was, by their standards, very high inflation, and that's a good metric of the impact of the pandemic on global supply chains. We were nearly double that. That was the additional monetary and fiscal stimulus that the U.S. undertook.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is this: they didn't implement our policies. They're higher than us. It's 11.5% inflation rate in the EU. The UK is 11%. They're much higher than we are. So this whole thing was used politically, and interestingly, it didn't actually work. Americans are much smarter than I think some of my colleagues on the other side think, and they knew that it was political and it wasn't reality. But anyway, let's move on, because I do agree with a lot of what they've said today about regulations at the local level. I do believe that. However, I also think, and because no one wants poor people, that's the problem. Everyone wants density somewhere else, not in their own community. It's a real problem. But Mr. Mitchell, I wanted to ask you this. In the Build Back Better, Madam Chair and the rest of us were pushing, and especially she was, for $150 billion. What would that have done for affordable housing in the United States?
Thank you, Congressman. So I think there are two kind of horizons that we need to be thinking about the policies here. In the immediate future right now, given the rapid rise in rental prices, being able to make sure that renters in this moment have the supports that they need to be able to afford rent, or other folks being able to find housing, there are significant investments in Build Back Better that would have allowed for that to happen. At the same time, there is also resources available to make sure that we have the housing supply in the long term that is either being upkept or renovated or putting more housing supply online. So there are resources in Build Back Better to accomplish both of those goals.
And I agree with my colleagues again on the other side of the aisle. It's big time supply issue. We have to build more, and we have to figure out how to do that, and hopefully together. I've got 10 seconds left, so again, I want to thank everyone, all the witnesses here, and I yield back. Thank you.
The gentleman's time has expired.